Good evening, everybody. It is February 17th. It is 5:30, and it is time for us to begin. Are there any public comments? There being none, I call this meeting to order. We will have invocation by, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right, Michaela Jenkins, 6th grade, North Lark Middle. Yay, nay?
Mr. Clark, okay.
And the flag salute by Carolina Davis, 6th grade, middle.
She's here? Okay. You want to do that? You
Neither?
want to have her-
Is she here?
Yes, she is.
Yes, come on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. Are your parents here with you? Caroline, is your parents here? Would you stand so you can be recognized as well? Thank you. Let's see, the vision and mission statements.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Madam President,
Yes.
since that invocation is so important, could you give us the invocation tonight?
No.
Oh, could you? Okay. I've heard you, I know you can.
Deacon Steele is over there too.
There you go. Since you brought it up, go ahead.
I'll be happy to.
All right.
All right.
Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to come together, to work together to do what's best for our entire school district, especially the children. Let us work together. Let us bless all of those individuals, help keep them safe and healthy. All these blessings we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Steele. While you're on the road, would you go ahead and read the vision statement and the mission statement?
I would learn to shut my mouth. Sure. The North Little Rock School District and the community will provide for achievement, accountability, acceptance, and the necessary assets in the pursuit of each student's educational success. The vision statement is world-class schools for world-class students.
Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Colquitt.
Dr. Readiness.
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Hurston West.
Present.
Temple. Here. Mrs. Wampum. Here. Mr. Zabriskie.
Here.
Mr. Steele.
Here.
Awesome. We're down to recognition of people, events, and programs. The first is 5.1 student presentation from Meadow Park Elementary School.
Welcome, Ms. McKinley.
All right, so I just want to do a quick little introduction of the two princesses that are here to represent Meadow Park this evening. This month, we are doing it really big in Meadow Park. We're doing an ode to historical black colleges and universities. We have transformed our building. Every class did a research project on a historical black college or university. And so just we're doing everything that we can to just bring awareness to this month and then just in a fun way. Next week, today, we had a homecoming assembly. Our first assembly of the year went really well. And we crowned Miss and Mr. Mustang University, because we're now Mustang University this month, and that went really well. Please like us on Facebook and Instagram, just a little shout out right quick, and you'll get to see it. We went live and you could see that and all the other great things that are going on at the school. Next week, we're going to have a Spirit Week. And on Tuesday, it's the Tuesday, February 22nd of 2022. So the title, the theme for that day is I Too Can Go to College. So of course, we are highlighting the colleges and things of that nature. But on Thursday of our Spirit Week, it's also Career Day. So we also want to make sure that our scholars are aware that if you don't go to college, it's okay, because it could be another, job out there, career out there, a vocation. And so we're just highlighting that. Our ladies today have a short poem. I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk quickly. They're going to recite a little bit of a poem by Amanda Gorman. And even though she did not graduate from an HBCU, she graduated from Harvard, actually. But we are telling our scholars, that could be you. You could be at a presidential inauguration and speak. And so, and if that isn't African-American history, I don't know what is. So enough of me, and let me turn it over to you. So indulge us for about 2 minutes, and then we'll get out of your way.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Casey McCleary.
And I am Nikeria Brown.
We would like to share our favorite parts of Amanda Gorman's famous poem, The Hill We Climb.
Amanda Gorman is an American poet and activist known for works that address Black identity, feminism, marginalization, and climate change.
She gained international fame when she read her poem, The Hill We Climb, at the 2021 inauguration of U.S. President Joe Biden. My favorite part is we, the successes of a country in a time where a skinny black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president only to find herself reciting for one. I like this part because Amanda Gorman is talking about a black girl dreaming about becoming president but doesn't have the opportunity.
She ends her poem with these profound words. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. She is saying, if we are brave enough, we can do anything we put our minds to.
When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid.
The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
The hill we climb.
Thank you.
Miss McKinley, are there parents here? Would you please stand as well? Thank you, thank you.
Ms. McKinley, why don't you go on the other side, so it's kind of even it out a little bit.
All right.
Good job, girls.
Awesome. All righty. We're down to 5.2, North Little Rock Center of Excellence, Outstanding Educational Performance.
Good evening. We're going to recognize the North Little Rock Center of Excellence. They've been recognized by the University of Arkansas Office of Education Policy for Growth in Math on the 2021 ACT Aspire. The organization considers schools where at least 66% of the student body is eligible for free or reduced price lunch. The Center of Excellence is one of 5 schools in the Central Arkansas region to receive this honor. The University of Arkansas Office of Education Policy wrote us a letter and said that these awards were based off of the, again, 2021 content growth score calculated by the Arkansas Department of Education. These scores These growth scores reflect how much students at the school improved from 2019 compared to how much they were expected to grow considering prior achievement. And here to accept this is Ms. Carla Wisnett, who is the principal at the North Little Rock Center of Excellence.
Five 5.3, it says Parent North Star Supporting Teachers Achievement Results Award. Ms. Crystal Barker?
Dr. Readiness, Board President, Board members, Dr. Paluski, District staff, North Little Rock community, good evening. It is an honor and privilege to share with you our February Parent North Star. Our recipient and his wife are the parents of 5 children who all attend North Little Rock School District. Our recipient is passionate about all students and is not afraid to let you know that. He has openly expressed how important it is that parents feel welcomed at all schools at all times. With that being said, he joined the North Little Rock School District by working with the STRIVE program, which allowed him to serve students in the district. Our recipient shares a great story about his humbled beginnings. He connected to the welcoming atmosphere at our Boone Park family and immediately knew that was the place for his children. He talks candidly about working with Dr. Tyler when he was the assistant principal and the Kings in Training mentor program. Our recipient says he would put Boone Park staff up against any staff in the whole wide world. When I ask our PEP, Christian Valley, how he identifies with the acronyms supporting teachers achieving results, she quickly responded saying, "He is amazing, and I can always count on him. He will assist in ways to help ensure that teachers' morale is up at all times and to the best of his ability, financially and or physically." Our February recipient thinks he's here to talk about Boone Park, but Superintendent Paluski, he's on his Superintendent Paluski's Parent Advisory Council, where he shares great insight and great ideas. Help me salute our Parent North Star for February 2022, Mr. Brian Kelton.
Oh, I can? Yes, you can.
Uh-oh.
We'll give you a minute.
A minute.
Yeah. Let me stand up. As I was not expecting this, I have been with the district for a long time, and my kids, my 3 little ones have had a lot of trauma. They're foster and adopted, and they've been in many schools in this district, and I still stand by what I've told Ms. Barker and Dr. Polinsky. I believe Boone Park is the best school around here because they've met my children's needs. I grew up in a neighborhood very much like Boone Park in Atlanta, Georgia, even worse. So I'm not liking you, but I appreciate this. I appreciate you guys. Continue supporting communities like Boone Park, 7th Street, Meadow Park. Those children need it. It's not always about education. It's about saving lives and changing lives. If we can take care of these kids and their families, education will come natural. Take it from a kid from the first housing projects in the United States. I've made it.
Well, Ms. Barker, while you're there, you can go ahead and present the Great Rising Adult Youth Recognition.
It only takes one positive relationship to change the life of a child. I stand to present this recognition in memory of our dear colleague, person, and friend. So many in North Little Rock School District who feel is gone too soon. In keeping his legacy of working with youth, his excitement of charging up Adult Youth Mentor Program, his love is evident through his writing and defending his dissertation on mentorship. The executive team unanimously agreed that this would be a great way to honor Dr. Scott A. Tyler's legacy in this area. A mentor or a mentor group will be recognized at monthly board meetings with the Great Rising Mentor Recognition. Great Rising is a morning salutation similar to Good Morning, with the focal point not only on the rising of the sun, but also on the rising of your physical being and being positive. Maya Humphrey is a young lady who, when she heard about us, the Charging Up Mentor, called and said, "Ms. Barker, I want to be a part of this program." She asked, could she come to my office and talk? I said yes. To date, Maya has started a girls mentor group at our middle school 7th, 8th grade campus, Girls Empowerment. The acronym stands for Growing Internal, Redefining Life. Maya meets with 18 to 20 girls twice a week. They have met and shared with her numerous topics that they would like to discuss: building self-confidence, anger management, depression, triggers, dealing with jealousy, and the list goes on. When I asked Mr. Kane about recognizing Maya and the work she's doing on his campus, he said without hesitation, "Yes, ma'am, Ms. Barker. Her work is and will make a difference in the lives of our young girls." We are excited to have her here. Help me salute our first Great Rising Mentor for February 2022, Maya Humphrey. She thought she was here to talk about mentor.
Congratulations.
Executive closed session per North Little Rock School District Policy 1.14A stating that private or closed discussions by the board may occur as part of a regular or special board meeting. Executive sessions may be held only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of an employee, or to discuss matters of pupil punishment, if requested by the parent or legal guardian. No resolution, agreement, or motion considered in the executive session shall be legally binding unless the board reconvenes in public session and presents the item for vote of the membership. Further, Arkansas Code Title 25, Chapter 19, Section 106(2)(c)(1) states, the specific purpose of the executive session shall be announced in public before going into executive session. Please join me in the executive closed session for discussing the following matters: employment, appointment, promotion, or resignation of employees. Well, I attended the ASBA school law seminar. It was last week. Yeah.
Were you virtual?
Yes. Yes.
I also attended, were you done? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I also attended the ASBA virtual conference and the virtual Amboy Community Project also. And I heard Miss Williams is very good with Black History poetry. If anybody would like to book her, I'm her agent. We take deposits ahead of time. No.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anybody else? Awesome. Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, members of the board, I'll go quickly. January 21st, all of our Central Arkansas superintendents meet each month to have a luncheon to collaborate. On the 21st, our E for the Future Partnership Advisory. On the 21st, I did attend the boys and girls basketball game, in which they won both those games. On the 21st, I had the great opportunity for a welcome back pep rally in the morning at the 7th and 8th grade campus. Mr. Kane and his staff have done a wonderful job, and it was amazing to see the smiles on parents and students' faces with that. They had music. It was wonderful. February 1st, I had the parent advisory. Attended another basketball game. Principal PD on the 2nd. Also on the 7th was the Superintendent's Employee Advisory Group. On the 8th, with fellow board members, we attended the Amboy Community Forum, which we were asked to do. Attended another basketball game in which we won, boys and girls. And Student Advisory, the Superintendent's Student Advisory on February 9th. I attended with the Ford NGL with both Chambers of Commerce on the 11th. And I had a great opportunity yesterday to spend half a morning with my colleague, Dr. Gerald Cleveland, at Springdale. And I visited 11 schools of innovation. So I'm very excited about that. And this afternoon, Dr. Hooper and I were interviewed by the Washington Post about the work that we're doing here amidst COVID-19. So we're excited about that.
Awesome. Did you talk about the bus?
Oh, yes.
Madam President.
A point of clarification at the last board meeting, it was, first I want to apologize. It was my understanding, I didn't know it at the time, that our bookmobile, when I arrived, I know that we weren't using that because of COVID-19, and so I do apologize to our community. We have been using our mobile bus, our book bus. Ms. Heather Rhodes has done a great job about that, so I do just want to clarify. I want to apologize for those partners that have been doing a great job to support us. So that was a clarification on my part, and I apologize.
Madam President, just a question. Have we done any changes on our school visitations? Because I know some of our schools were doing their programs virtually, and I've talked to some former volunteers, mentors, Ms. Barker, especially over at 7th Street, that are ready to come back and help. I just need to know we're ready.
Yes, sir. We're open. We'd send a communication out. We can send another one out in the top 5 this week.
Mm-hmm.
We're back at full capacity at our indoor events, our outdoor events. We welcome parent volunteers and our mentors. Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Steele, for that clarification.
All righty, we're down to number 8, CPPC monthly report and LPPC monthly report. First, we'll have classified 8.1 classified personnel policy committee report.
Good evening, Mr. Williams. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening to all.
And before you start, can I say, I had the opportunity to attend the last 2 CPPC. Awesome. Y'all are doing awesome.
Thank you.
The minutes, awesome.
Thank
I just wanted to let you know that.
All right. Thank you. We did have a couple of meetings. We also had a third that was not on here on the 15th of February. It was the will of the committee to accept the $1,500 bonus to be paid out. I don't know when, but we did accept that. Also, we had a meeting on February the 7th to discuss the raise for the CP for the classified staff, and In that meeting, we had several discussions about how we wanted to break up the money. I think in the end, we came to a conclusion that we wanted to make it a flat amount. We got one amount in that meeting, but got some other information. That's why we had the meeting again on February the 15th to discuss the new information. That new information was that some other funds were found that would help to increase the amount that we were offering the classified policy committee, the classified employees. And I believe that amount that we came to was $12.50 across the board for all the steps on the classified salary schedules. And that is it.
Okay. Thank you for a nice report here. But I see on here that you say you were gonna, Mr. Brown made a statement that since the classified salary schedule had so many different scales, that it was not calculated the same as certified scales, because I know one of your members in your, I was on the page where they said for how they wanted it presented from 10,000 to 30,000, they felt like they could get 5%, and 30,000 to 40, they should get 40%, 40 to 50, 10. They broke it on down, and people they felt in classified making over 60,000, they should only give 1%. Now, the calculation was Mr. Brown going to bring you all a report back about that as far as the flat fee, or this was just his statement saying it won't happen?
No, that was something that was brought by some people in the classified,
Right.
with the classified staff, and they didn't feel like it was equitable for, I think we initially said it was going to be 2%. So they were looking at some different ways to break up the amount of money, but that was not feasible because what Mr. Brown conveyed to us is that it wouldn't work with, because you have some people that may have 16,000 and then they are on that same schedule. You might have somebody that has 30,000. He couldn't break it up to where those percentages would be in one part of the salary scale and then something different in another salary scale. So it had to be all the same.
Okay, so basically the attitude was people with the highest salary shouldn't be getting
That was the thought, yes.
That was the thing, because I do notice that in certain departments, there are some people making $75,000 in classified, and the attitude is they don't need anything. But that's not fair and equitable.
Right.
You have to give them
That
something.
is correct.
So Mr. Brown had simply said it would take too long to break something down like this, and it's,
Correct.
and what was you all found analysis on this report that was brought in?
We decided to go with the money that was allocated to us. We decided that we wanted to just spread it out. We took the number of classified employees and divided that number by the money that was allotted to us and came with that number. And that was the will of the committee to do so.
No, thank you, Madam President.
Ms. Wontham, any questions? Person West?
I have none. Thank you.
So you said that flat amount was $1,250?
Right.
And do we need to vote to accept that change to the salary schedule?
Our
is that-
proposal is that we're going to bring it to you in the next special meeting.
Okay.
On both the LPPC and CPP side.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
I guess I was just trying to understand it. I understand if you break it up between the number of employees, this is how much money you divide it up, everybody gets $1,250, but salary schedules work different, so you're just gonna plug $1,250 into every scale. I'm kind of wondering in practice how that gets.
So we're just taking every scale, every schedule we have, we're adding $1,250 to each one of the steps. That's basically it.
What, it looked like Dr. Smith was wanting to help.
Good evening, board members, Madam President, Dr. Paluski. Ms. Temple, to answer your question, so there is a step on each salary schedule, and depending on what salary schedule you find, those steps are equivalent all the way through. So let's just say it's 800. Well, if you add 1250 to the top box, it essentially adds 1250 to each box going down, but that step will stay $800 all the way through. So it's an equalization through the entire steps of every salary schedule. And so the concept from behind that would be that everybody would get the same amount, the same increase. Does that help?
And so when we bring this, we're going to bring you all the charts so you can see what both groups have agreed to bring to you so that you're informed of what they look like. And that will be explained, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Smith?
And that will be the same night as the workshop?
I believe, yes, because that would have to be special meeting because it would be an action item that we would be bringing forward, unless it's the will for the board to move it to the, we're just trying to get it as fast as possible, but if that's the will of the board, you want to move it to the March regular board meeting, I'm okay with that if that's your direction.
No, I'm fine. I just need, so
Yes.
that will be the same night as the workshop.
Yes, sir.
That's fine.
Everybody getting the same.
Sooner the better.
Yes, yep.
Okay, question.
Yes.
Mr. Smith. I really like the statement that you all had in this report. People that are benefiting, they are really getting there. Will anybody be topped out? That's what I wanted to ask Mr. Smith. You know, who will be topped out and can't get anything?
Everybody will get something, ma'am, because even those that, yes, ma'am, even those that are topped out will still receive that $1,250 step on that bottom. The steps won't increase, they'll stay on the same step, but their money will be physically $1,250 more the next year.
For real?
Yes, ma'am.
First time in history. Okay. Thank you.
We
You're
like
welcome.
being first.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Tell Ms. Barnett she did a great job being the secretary.
I sure will.
LPPC, Ms. Jackson.
Miss Jackson, her husband, due to family obligations, I'll be taking over her board appearances.
I thought maybe she had had a baby. I was like, uh-oh. Okay. Never mind.
Not yet. Okay, so we have had a meeting and a call meeting since I've spoken to you last. So I'm going to go through our meeting, our regular scheduled meeting and then our call meeting. We had a member resign due to conflicts with her schedule. We talked about looking at the upcoming calendar options with the sick day resolution. And we also talked about speech language pathologists being moved from our licensed side of the house to the classified side of the house. Since then, we've gotten worried that that's not going to happen during this school year, because that was part of the salary schedule conversation, is where would they end up falling.
Can I ask why?
So all of the other therapists are on the classified side of the house, so they don't have to hold an Arkansas teacher license. Speech language pathologists have to hold a teaching license to stay on the licensed side of the house, which also means they have to receive the professional development that we have to receive, even though it's not applicable to their position. So just to move them over to be in sync with the other therapist, it wouldn't change their pay necessarily, but it would change that they wouldn't have to continue to seek that licensure.
Makes sense.
Because they have their own license process that they have to go through. So then we talked about the salary schedules, and originally we had agreed to a $1,000 raise across the board because there was not enough money in our original bucket to do the education lane fixes that we've spoken about before and give a sizable bump. So we decided we'll just give $1,000 to every base. Then we also spoke about our calendar feedback. So attached to our calendar that we sent out to, and this was a joint project with CPPC and LPPC, so all staff members had an opportunity to participate. We were getting feedback on some more non-traditional calendar options for 24-25. Right? 24-25.
No,
24?
Yes.
23, 24. One of them being extending the school day in order to cut 10 days out of our calendar to save 10 days of operational cost. Another one being extending, adding more frequent breaks and shortening the summer. Another one being building in asynchronous days where students would work off of campus through a learning management system, or moving to a 4-day week. The information from that was really interesting. We had high interest on a 4-day week and high interest on cutting 10 days out of our calendar. So our committee is in the process of talking with ADE, and those are options that are legal through ADE, but we need to figure out what steps we have to take. If that's something our staff has shown a lot of interest in, our next step would find out if parents are also interested in either one of those options, and then to build calendars around that.
Have you spoken to any of the other districts within the state that do the 4-day work week?
We haven't yet, because we just reviewed the data on last meeting and said this is an item that we're picking up. So we're in that phase. But that is a plan, because there are a few around the state who have moved that way. Specifically, we're interested in learning loss, if it's taking place by moving to a 4-day week, and cost. So is it actually saving money, or is it hurting our students? We need to know that. We also need to know what families would do. Because we know, especially at the elementary level, we're not only education, we're also childcare for some families. Then we talked about COVID leave and FMLA and the way that those things are interacting. There was no action item there, but when you take any of your COVID leave, it pulls out of your FMLA bank. So any of our families who are expecting to have surgery or having a child or any of those traditional FMLA days, their days are being taken with our COVID leave resolution. So, and we also mentioned in there that family members under our policy currently have to share their FMLA, their 12 weeks of FMLA. So last year I went on FMLA due to having a baby. And if my spouse also worked for the district, where we have a lot of families who both spouses work for the district and they should be celebrated, and my husband would need surgery, we're out of days for a 12-month calendar year. And then should we go into COVID, we're out of days. So that's something that our committee's also picking up, is reworking. FMLA is federal. We can't really touch that. That's a minimum, though. The district can go above it. So we could separate some things and offer additional leave that stand outside of FMLA. Again, we're in the discovery exploration process of that, but it's been brought to our attention that there's some sticky spots that need to be fixed. Our committee approved the $1,500 bonus, so that is now in Mr. Smith and Dr. Paluski's hands. It has been approved by us. And then we had a call meeting because Mr. Brown had reached out to our committee to say that the state had released additional funds, which is what you just heard Mr. Williams talking about. With the state releasing additional funds, we were able to fix the educational lanes and add $1,750 to every base. This is including our speech language pathologist and our school psychologist. So everybody on the licensed side of the house will get $1,750. Our educators who have more education, when we spoke, their education jumps had been reduced and their experience steps had been reduced, that is also getting fixed. And so some of those people with higher education, more years of experience, will be seeing more than $1,750 because they'll get their lane fixed plus their $1,750. So we've been very busy. The next things that we're hitting is the retention stipend that is on Dr. Paluski's plan. Mr. Smith is going to bring some ideas to the committee, and we're going to look at what the stipulations for that stipend would need to be and make sure that it's fair and reasonable for our licensed staff. So that's what I have. I'll take questions.
Ms. Person-West?
I just want to say good report. I appreciate all your hard work in your committee, and it seems like we're getting a little bit closer to some money for you all, which is well deserved and well needed. So I commend you for working hard on it.
Thank you.
Ms. Wonkum?
Can you clarify the
that their, the employee bonus and the COVID pay are two different things?
Yes, ma'am. So there is a bonus that we will be receiving, and it is just a bonus. And then there's a COVID, I look at it as hazard pay. That's not exactly what it's coded at, but COVID pay, and that's where you'll get
$15.27 per student contact day.
that you served. So if you took 3 sick days, you're losing those 3 days. But that'll be paid out at the end of the year once we've completed our calendar year.
Correct.
So those are two separate, and the retention stipend is also separate.
Very good, thank you.
Ms. Williams?
Your report was very good. I asked you last month that when you bring your report in, I'm a visual person, and I told you have your reports for documentation. And you said some very good things, heard everything you said, but sometimes we need to look back and you report whatever you got on your computer. You could have printed
It's
it
the
out
same
to
that you
us.
have. The call meeting minutes are, we did send them to Ms. Colquitt, but we had our meeting Monday, and so she received our minutes, I think Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's just been, we just met Monday. They have been approved. They will be in your packets. Ms. Colquitt has access to them. So what I have is those
And
approved
your report
minutes.
was good, but again, the second time, last month you didn't have it written, and today.
They were written. No, they're written. They're not approved. And I
know,
can't
but
bring
they
you something
weren't
that's
in
not
the
approved.
Packet. I said, it's a documentation, that's all I'm saying.
So it's the will of the board that y'all receive our minutes before they are
Yes.
approved by our committee.
To let you know what it is.
Is that correct?
Explain the process of approval.
Okay, so we have a meeting, and while we have a meeting, our secretary takes the minutes. After the meeting, all of our committee members are tasked with reviewing the minutes, commenting on them for any change or edits, which does happen. Then the secretary and the chair and co-chair review them once again, so that's 3 reviews. And then we put it on our Google Classroom, waiting for our members to give it one final glance and then to approve. So that usually takes a couple of days to generate before it's approved. We don't send it out to the public before then because sometimes there's mistakes. For example, in the minutes, it said that the new raise proposal was unanimously accepted, and it was not. There was one person who voted no. That just wasn't caught in the meeting because we say aye, and so that had to be commented in. The minutes had to be revised. Everybody had to see that it had been revised before they could say it's good to go. So that's my only hesitation with bringing them to you before they're approved, is should there be a mistake, that's not fair to my committee for that to be official documentation that y'all stand on that hasn't gone through an official process.
Oh, I had one other question.
Yeah, I was just going to, to piggyback off of what you're saying, Ms. Williams, would it help if she can put on there, like have the minutes on there, but then say that is not an official copy, but you'll have your notes on there?
Oh, it's just for documentation for the board.
Gotcha.
And
So
then
can you put on there like an addendum that,
Like
or
pending
side note,
approval.
pending
Pending
approval
approval.
of your committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
That's all.
Pending approval.
that's all that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I also say that too, to know who's serving on your committee is important. If you have enough people or the administrators that are meeting, because, we do have policies that who's present, who's absent. Did you have enough people on your committee to serve? All of that is documentation, okay?
At the top of our minutes should have our members who are serving, and we take attendance at the beginning of every meeting to make sure that we have quorum.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you, but do what I said do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Temple?
I took notes, so I kind of can remember what we discussed here. The one thing you said that I didn't completely understand is you said a husband and wife working for the district shares the same 12 weeks on FMLA?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
That is the federal minimum, and our district meets the minimum instead of going above that.
I thought that I guess I'm just confused because I thought each individual employee was entitled to 12 weeks, not couples.
Not at the same institution or same corporation. They're, depending on how the structures are written, that's a decision that we as North Little Rock School District have made somewhere along the way, and that's the way the FMLA policy exists. That is not uncommon either amongst other districts across the state.
Okay, all right.
But it does not have to stay that way either.
I don't believe it does either.
Okay,
If it's the
all right,
will of
that's
the board
just-
for us to look at, and we are looking at that. If it's the will of Dr. Paluski, then we'll bring something back to the board in more final form.
I was just going to suggest, Mr. Smith, if you would just get the language and put it in our weekly board report as a follow-up to our board meeting so the board can see the language.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you. Y'all are working really hard. You're being very proactive, and that's good to see. You have been very flexible in working with the district and trying to push things forward. So it's appreciated.
Thank you.
Mr. Steele?
Good job. Just one quick question, Doctor. Who's eligible for the stipends and who was not eligible? For the stipends.
The
You said- you
retention
mentioned-
stipend or the
Yes.
bonus?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody, yes.
Okay.
The way, again, nothing is in final form, but we have received the blessing from the attorney in the Department of Ed that we can do something on both sides of the house, and it's been the decision from the administration thus far, unless something changes as we're working it through the committees, that number is the same for everybody. And so everybody does a great job, and we want to retain all our people, our good people.
And do you have any coaches that attend your meeting?
We do. Dolly Jackson attends our meeting, and she's a coach. We also had Coach Tennyson.
She's the god lady then.
We also had Coach Tennyson, but this second semester, her practice
Schedule.
fell on
Schedule.
Monday, so
Sure.
that was our resignation. But so we previously had 2 coaches. Now we're down to 1.
Good job. Thank you.
Dr. Reddish,
You have another question? Yes.
when will they get these checks? Cause they'll start asking us, board members.
Yes, ma'am.
We're gonna get it.
So if we're going to talk about bonus, I think let's talk about it there.
Okay.
That would be, so just to clarify, when we're talking about the stipends for this year, the COVID comes at the end of the year because it's based upon contact days. And we're going to talk about the bonus that I'm recommending that gets released to employees as right away.
Absolutely.
Then as far as the other retention stipends, we're still working out the details, the
Yeah.
dollar amount, but we'll come back to the board. So what I've directed Mr. Smith is there's 3 pieces of this. The first piece is to work on the bonus, which we're going to have for you to vote on tonight. The second piece is the raises that we want to bring to you next. And then the third phase that we want to bring is these retention stipends,
Hopefully in April. Hopefully
hopefully in April.
Yep.
Were you about to say something?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you very much. I always learn something out of your reports. If it's not too much trouble, it would be nice just to send something and say it's not approved, it hadn't been approved yet, so that we'll know that we'll get an approval later and we can compare the differences.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're down to information items. Ms. Barker is up again. Parent engagement, adult youth mentoring overview.
So, Madam President, members of our board, Ms. Barker is going to give us a very brief overview of the work that she has started with Dr. Tyler back in the fall. And I think she's going to share some numbers with you that are absolutely amazing to me.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Dr. Readiness, Dr. Paluski, board members. Again, my name is Krista Bark. I serve as the District Parent and Family Community Coordinator. As you have in your packet and on the screen, you see that nice logo. We are so proud of this, our Charging Up Unique Potential. Just want to talk and just make sure you're all on the same page. When we talk about charging up, the up does stand for unique potential. Charging Up Unique Potential is just the umbrella of all of the district's mentor program. What I mean by that is many of our schools have different programs that they're doing with their students, but we want it to be noted that that's the umbrella. So if ever there was an interview and they said, let's hear about what's going on in North Little Rock School District, under the Charging Up, and a few slides later, you'll see just a few of some of the other mentor programs that take place in the school. This is also part of what we share when I host the mentor orientation. The main 3 things that I would love for us to know is that we want to bring mentors in, adult mentors, to assist our already awesome staff, our counselors, giving them some time to be able to do some of the things they need to do, because we have those extra adult bodies in the buildings, if it's nothing but their presence, to allow our children to know the 3 bullet points you see there. We want to help to decrease and alleviate the fights, disrespect and disruptive behaviors. We want to increase our students' awareness about how important the potential they all have, but the main thing is that they understand how important, how valued, and how loved each one of them are. We also want to make it noted that this program is not just for behavior concerns. As we saw our young presentation, mentoring is we have people that are looking to come in, businesses want to come in and mentor in the different fields that our students may be seeking, post-graduation. So it was created around behavior concerns. However, it is not just designated for behavior concerns. And as you can see, it's in your packet. We want our children to understand that there are people here that love them in our community. We know a lot of times, even as adults, some people don't feel love, and it may be stimulating some of the things that happen. But the key thing on that slide is one positive relationship can change the life of a child. And we know if we bring that into our schools, some of the problems that our students are having, if we bring positive relationships, and I'll be honest, on the mic, when I talk with mentors, if you're not positive and this is a resume filler, this might not be what you're looking to do, because we really want to make sure that we're building positive relationships with our students. And my favorite quote by Frederick Douglass, this being Black History Month, falls perfect. It is easier to build strong children than to try and repair broken men. So we want to make sure we're building strong children. And the next slides, I just kind of want to go through a timeline. You've seen it starting in July, and I get tickled because I was actually off contract, and our great superintendent had attended a North Little Rock community meeting. Pastor Stinnett, Ms. Alderwoman Robinson, and several people in the community. And the conversation came up, what happened to adult mentors? So that's how that started. And then I got this call along with Dr. Tyler and and we were in Dr. Paluski's boardroom. I think it was about July 19th, a little bit sooner before contract. But I was here because I believe in mentoring. Dr. Paluski called a meeting, as you can see, in July, August. Dr. Tyler and I started putting this plan together so that we could present it to the Leadership Academy, which consisted of our principals and our building leaders. We then shared our plans, with the executive team. In October through December, Dr. Paluski, along with Chief Testing and Kathy Walker, held some town hall meetings. During those meetings, the discussion was talking about the concerns in the city as well as our schools around behavior. So, those conversations were allowing the community to see we're here to, bring solutions to the concerns that we see. But we wanted the community to also know it's not just a school problem we have, it's a city issue. So we want to work together. Then I hosted mentor orientations. And today we've held over 12 in person as well as via Zoom. I'm excited. Many of our churches opened their doors to us because our doors were still closed due to COVID, allowing us to host those sessions there. The logo, that design that you see, was created also during the months of October, December. In November, many programs, this thing caught fire. People just got excited. I want to do this program. I want to do this one. And that's what we want. I'd rather have a lot of people ready to do it than we don't have no people wanting to do it. North Little Rock Middle School, I just listed 3 that we know some programs have already jumped up and starting to roll. December, everybody saw the Dads on Duty that went viral. I received over 50 text messages. This what you doing? This what y'all doing? So you knowing me, if you don't know me, get to know me. I called that school. I called that high school.
That's the one in Philadelphia?
Shreveport, Louisiana.
Shreveport, okay.
And I watched the news coverage. I called the school, and the little secretary said she took my name, and they just took too long to call me back. So I called them again. Then they did an update, and it showed the locations where had contacted the school. And guess who was on the national news? North Little Rock had a pen. So those guys were so excited when I found the lady just said, let me just give you their number, because I kept calling. But they answered, and they did. As you all know, we did host them here in our city, and we do serve as the 2nd district to hold a charter for Dads on Duty in the United States of America. So that's something to be proud of. In February, over 60 members joined the Academy Parent and Family Night Call. I was very excited. I sent the blast out to several mentors that had definitely expressed an interest to join under the Dads on Duty. And I looked at that as a big plan and a great area to really pilot and get some good data, because with the 120 students that attend the Academy, with 79 males and give or take 30 to 40 females, I saw possibly partnering one-on-ones with our students in the Academy, really helping them understand how valuable, how important, and the potential that they do have. So I'm excited to say, starting next week, those mentors will be going into the building between the hours of 11:30 and 1:30. Parent and Family Night, I just talked about that, and you just saw the great rise in recognition in honor of Dr. Tyler. If Dr. Tyler was here now, he'd be saying, Ms. Barker, what do you want me to do? I'll pass out the papers. He was just so excited about this. The next slide just gives you a couple of some of our mentor programs in the different schools. As you can see, I stated on the outside what was new and some of the things we're working on. One thing I want to bring clarity to, Dads on Duty did not remove watchdogs. Many of our schools do have watchdogs. Dads on Duty is just an addition to. We're not removing any programs that are going to help and enhance the success of our students. Then just to give you an overview of some of the things I highlight during a mentor orientation, we talk about to inform, to recruit, and to implement. We talk with our mentors about the expectations of our district, and then we go into some of the school discipline that you all have already seen, and that is housed on the next 7 slides, and I won't take up any time to go through those, because that's the information that we share through K through 5, K through 12, the Academy, and the CEOs, so that our mentors understand some of the areas that we want to put direct focus on. And those programs that are already housed in some of our schools, one of the things I've asked them to ensure that we're talking about anger management, self-awareness, and all those things, even in the little princesses and kings and queen type programs that we have. So I won't go over all of the data, because as I stated, you do have it, but I will look at some of the expectations that we share with our mentors. We talked to them about telephone, and what we mean by that is we ask that our mentors not do any texting and interaction with our students, for the safety and liability of both. If they are texting, we ask that a parent is included in that information, because we know some of our older students may know these persons from. We recommend no transporting of students, and we ask that under the Charging Up mentor program that it's always done during the hours of school time, unless it's something that has been approved with parents, and that information is housed at the school as well as in my office. Social media, we ask that they do not, post pictures with them, just, friends, and not be the follower. But we do let them know if the school posts something, they do have the right to share what the school posted. Out of and away from school, we ask no contact, unless it's something that's been agreed upon. And we know many of our kids do Boys and Girls Club as well as church youth groups. And we, that's okay, because that's something that the parents know. Overnight stays, we know as the students get older, there may be some college visits. And we just ask that if, in that case, more documentation is completed and parents' approval is granted at that time. We ask that they let their face show through their actions and not their words. Not trying to recruit and all those type things. Check in, check out, how that goes. Make sure they sign in. And I am very proud. We have an official volunteer badge that every school will receive, that every volunteer will have while they're in the building. Something that's very visible, that kids will know, staff will know, that is someone that has been background checked, approved, and okay to be in the building. And I want to give credit to Sonia Strickland and our HR department who had these created. When she saw the program, she got excited, and she made badges. Group mentoring and all of those things, if they have it, that's, be at the leisure of the school. If they see something, say something. Sometimes when you get in mentor programs, kids will reveal things to you that they would not tell anyone else. So we want to make sure they understand the mandated reporting and all of that. We let them know that referrals will be made by teachers, staff, counselors, parents, and sometimes students will make own self-referrals. I was in the store one day and I told them, a little kid told, mother just stopped, she said, my son needs this program. She said, I don't know what all it do, but he needs it. So it's out there. Then, you know, of course, we pass out the background form. But the information, some of the data that I'd like you to see that I pulled from the spreadsheet, as you can see, I did on our gender. Right now, well, it's gone up already. We have 292 females and 147 males. And when you look at the totals, there is a 27 difference, and that's because some of our mentors request multiple schools. And I just list their names multiple times, so if I ever have to look, I can look under the schools and see who's there. And the next agenda, it shows by race. And if the race is there, that shows that that race has been identified per their volunteer form. So you can see that information as we continue together. Coming soon, we will have moms on a mission. We got dads on duties. Moms are saying what we're going to do. Also, I'm excited. Philander Smith College contacted me, and they want to partner. They're mandating all male initiatives be a part of this program here in North Little Rock School District. So we're excited about that. I'll be actually doing a mentor orientation on Saturday, February the 26th, on the campus of Philander Smith College with their male fraternities and social justice department. And the last slide is, you just saw it today, but I had to put that in there. Our great rise in adult youth recognition that we will do on a month-to-month basis. That ends the report of our Charging Up Adult Youth Mentor Program. Are there any questions for me?
Mr. Seal?
Yeah, great job. Great job. I would just like to recommend just keep doing what you're doing and getting the word out there. I attended at least 3 of these large meetings, including last night, with large groups of people regarding this recent rash of crime with young people. And I heard on 2 occasions where somebody would stand up and say, well, you know, we can't go in the schools anymore. And I'm scratching my head. When did that happen? And so there's a lot of misinformation out there. So just, you know, be diligent, even more diligent about getting the word out that, yeah, we are welcoming people back to have to go through the process, but we are welcoming people back because it is critically important. And Crystal, you're so right. I mean, just the presence and the visibility of adults makes a difference, especially at the elementary level, at all levels, but especially with our young kids. Just when they see you, they're looking and trying to find out who you are, why you're here. But if they're going to act out, they're less likely to act out when they see adults. And we've got to get back to that. That's a critical component of education, especially in the discipline area. So yeah, let's be more even diligent. I want to ask about what's the requirements to go in the school as a volunteer? Is there a temperature check or?
Yeah, I mean, we're still in temperature check as it is. I mean, number one, they've got to have a background check, and that all
Now,
the
that's
coordination
just for volunteer, but you're talking about the mentoring program is the background check, right?
Volunteers as
Both
well.
of them.
Correct.
Okay,
Volunteer, any type of volunteer is a background check.
okay.
Yes, sir.
So to go into a school, you must have a background check.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something too that we need to really.
Absolutely. I
more
know Ms.
diligent about
Barker's
getting the
been
word out.
processing for quite some time.
And we will get the word out, and just to go back, we were on all our local news stations about this program, as well as 92.3, and we will go back, but we did send out in our top 5 that the doors are open, but we do still have to be careful. You know, we've opened our doors to PTA and the mentor volunteer program. So if anyone is having problems, now it is at the principal's discretion because we want to make sure there's no testing and all of those type things. But we want the mentors in the buildings and to do what we know our students need. So
Very
if you
good.
have someone direct, just have them give me a call.
Oh,
And I'll make
will.
sure,
I
because
will.
what also happens, Mr. Steele, when we get those background checks, I send a copy of who's been approved to every school month. Try to do it weekly based on how they come in. So if they've sent a background check in, they'll be on the list if everything went good. So
Is that a
it's-
cost to us?
On the background check? I believe.
Yes. There
It's a
is
minimum
to it.
cost.
Yes, sir.
60.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
JT?
I just echo Mr. Steele's sentiments. Thank you. I think parental involvement and engagement is critical. I think we've lost a lot of that in recent years. Not just recent years, but over decades. It's dropped off. So the more we can do to get parents in the schools and involved with their kids' education, especially at the elementary or at the early levels, is a very important.
Thank you.
And I agree with them, but I have a couple questions.
Okay.
The first one is, you're not trying to pair up a child and an adult. You're having adults come in and just interact with
Right.
kids.
Right.
And hopefully they're going to the same set of kids. Is that?
Yes, and Ms. Temple, it may look different at every school. The goal is they come in and, possibly relationships can be built with the students. So if that happens, and then we have some mentors that are doing groups, like the young lady tonight, she does a group. Then the counselors are our number one liaisons to the school, and they're setting up and helping identify who may need and can better be served with direct mentorship, group mentor, and so those type of things. So each school is unique to the needs of the school and the students there.
How often are those background checks? I mean, is it going to be annually?
Well, right now,
every
what
other
the
year?
school district does is yearly,
Okay,
yearly background checks.
okay. And then the badges, they sign them in and sign them out?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They
Okay.
got to get these back to us now.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Ms. Williams?
Excellent job, Ms. Barker.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
I can't say that a better word. Girl after my own heart.
Thank you.
I appreciated your report, and I think you're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
You've been doing that for years. And I have to say this, give another prop. When my sorority 3 years ago was trying to go to 7th Street, she did the whole background check on our whole sorority before we could go into the building. So she's been doing a phenomenal job all these years.
Thank you.
Ms.
You're next,
Welcome.
darling.
It's nice to see the security measures have been stepped up. So I appreciate that badge being made. I appreciate the visual. So even our teachers and our faculty can see that we've got other adults in. I know we've been doing those background checks for years. I understand that. It's the cost of doing business, and keeping our children safe is definitely worth every penny that we spend on that. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Walker.
Ms. Person West?
Ms. Barker, I just want to say thank you for your hard work. I know there have been times when I, text you about different information and sending people your way. But I guess, too, I would be remiss, or this board would be remiss not to acknowledge the hard work that Dr. Tyler has given to this program and to this district. So, with him not being here, I'm glad to see that it's flourishing and it's growing. And I go back and I think about when my children were a part of the district, the Ladies and Gentlemen's Club, that Mr. Noble was, Dwayne Noble. I was trying to think, what was his first name? But Dwayne Noble was over. And I thought about all the hard work that he put into it, and it was just himself. And he didn't really have a lot of assistance with that particular program, but he worked really hard on it. And I could just tell a difference when my son would not just wear slacks and a tie, but he wore the whole suit. And I had to explain to him, sir, we got to take that to the cleaners. But, but he wore his suit every day to school, and he was proud to wear his full suit. And you can tell a whole demeanor change when a child has pride in the way that they look. And the way that you look, builds confidence, and it definitely would exude on the outside. So looking at that list of programs, it just made my heart swell because it's instilling value into our children. So I appreciate your work. I appreciate Dr. Paluski for allowing this to happen.
Absolutely.
And, and I appreciate the work that Dr. Tyler also gave to this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Person.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barker.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I might need that.
All right, we're down to action items, new business. The first on the list is 10.1, fiscal year 21 audit. Mr. Brown.
So, Madam President, members of our board, Mr. Brown could not be with us this evening, but Ms. Edwards is going to step in on his behalf and would like to welcome Mr. Glover. And they're going to do a very quick overview of our FY21 audit, which will need to be approved as an action item. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Paluski and Board. This is Mark Glover from HCJ CPA Advisory. He's going to go over our audit for the 20 and 21 school year.
All right. Thank you, Board and Superintendent, for having me tonight to present the audit report. I think you'll see that we have good information to present to you guys tonight. I'd like to thank Mr. Brian Brown, Ms. Makisha Edwards on helping us throughout the audit process. We had many questions, many requests, and they worked pretty diligently and answered all of our questions and helped out in order for us to be here tonight. Just kind of a quick background. We did audit fieldwork the first 2 weeks of November. After that, we continued to work with these guys, getting finished with the report, wrapping it up, and then we basically got the report finished, and then we had to wait on the feds to release a addendum to the compliance supplement, which affects our federal awards testing. So once we got that, we did some additional testing, and then we issued our report, and we're here tonight. If you flip to page 1, this is the Independent Certified Public Accountants Report, which is right after your table of contents. And I'm here to let you guys know that we're issuing a clean, unmodified opinion on the report. Obviously, that's a good report. We issue the report on a regulatory basis of accounting. So that's our opinion, in which we'll go over in more detail here shortly. If you flip to page 4, this is the balance sheet, in which the balance sheet is set up in the major fund columns. You have your general fund, your special revenue fund, and then your other governmental funds and fiduciary funds. You'll see general fund at the bottom had a total fund balance of $13.1 million. Special revenue fund had a $3.3 million fund balance. And then if you look up top, the majority of that fund balance is made up of cash and cash equivalents. And then we also had a large $9.7 million receivable due from government. That is going to be related to your ESSER funding. There were a lot of ESSER COVID-related expenses that took place, in which the district got reimbursed from the feds later on within the next fiscal school year. If you flip to the next page, page 5, the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. I'm just going to hit the high points. If you look at revenue and you sum up the 3 columns, you're at $114 million in revenue. That's compared to roughly $100 million last year, so 13% increase. The majority of that increase is on the federal revenues. You'll see $24.1 million received during the fiscal year. That's roughly a 86% increase. And once again, that's a ESSER conversation. You received ESSER 1 funds and ESSER 2 funds to help out with all the additional expenditures related to COVID-19. If you look at expenditures, once again, if you sum up the 3 columns, total expenditures for the year was $110.5 million. That's roughly a 5.8% increase from the previous year. Once again, that's mostly related to additional expenditures with the pandemic and COVID-19. And then if you summed up the capital outlay line item, total capital outlay was about $3.1 million versus $2.3 million last year. So in all, that kind of makes up the 5% increase when compared to last year's total expenditures. If you continue to scroll down, you'll see other financial uses and sources. And the 2 main items you'll see is proceeds from bond issuance and then a payment to refunding agent. That's basically the refinancing of the 2012, 2013, and 2015 bonds during the school year. And then those were replaced with lower interest rates with the March 1st, 2021 bond series. Let's flip to page 7.
The number, excuse me real quick, the numbers in the parentheses, that just basically means,
That's a decrease.
Okay.
So it's almost like a expense.
okay, gotcha.
Where the 175 million, where it's not in parentheses, that was proceeds.
Okay, gotcha.
Cash receipt.
All right, just making sure.
Let's flip to page 7. This is the start of the notes to the financial statements. Note 1 is the summary of significant accounting policies. You'll see at the bottom of page 7, the measurement focus and basis of accounting. As I previously mentioned, we issued our report on the regulatory base of accounting. That's required by Arkansas state law. If you flip to the next page, the RBA, or regulatory based accounting, is different than your standard GAAP or generally accepted accounting principles. And that first paragraph at the top of page 8 highlights the differences between the RBA and GAAP per se. Now let's flip to page 11. At the top of the page 11, you'll see note 2, cash deposits with financial institutions. This is just to let you know that your money that's in the bank, you guys have 2 banks that you use, is insured up to $250,000 per bank. So that's where you get the $500,000. There's excess of money at the bank, $33.3 million at 6/30/2021. And what we do is we send out confirmation and verify that this $33.3 million is collateralized by the bank, in which they confirmed it is. So basically what that means is the district's risk of losing that money, if heaven forbid those banks go under, you're protected. The cash is protected at the bank because there's collateral held up against that $33 million. If you scroll down the page and you look at note 4, the commitments footnote, just a kind of a quick summary on the long-term debt that's outstanding, which is the bonds. Within that table, you'll see the very first 3 bonds that I mentioned, the 2012, 2013, and 2015 bonds. Those were the 3 bonds that were refinanced during the year, and they were replaced with the March 1st, 2021 bond. And once again, that refinancing lowered the overall interest rates, in which saved the district interest costs going forward. If you flip to the next page, and you'll see a schedule of, it says total long-term debt, principal, and interest payments are as follows. So this is kind of a general guide and future outlook of kind of what your debt service payments will be from a year-to-year basis. Let's go to page 14. And if you look at the bottom of page 14, you'll see note 10, the subsequent events. So one of our requirements is if there's been a material event happen after June 30, 2021, we have to disclose it as a footnote disclosure. As of December 1st, 2021, there was another refinancing of bonds in which, once again, we lowered the interest rate on that refinancing. And the bond series that was refinanced was the November 1st, 2016 series. Let's flip to page 16. So this report, in which we have to issue actually 4 reports within our audit. This report is the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting. So this is what we call our yellow book report, and all governmental entities is required to receive a yellow book report. And like I said, we tested internal control and so forth. And we're issuing a clean opinion, and there's no matters, no control findings in which we're required to present to the board. If you flip to page 18. This is the independent auditor's report on compliance for each major program. So this is what we call our single audit, which we test your federal expenditures. So any governmental or nonprofit entity that has over $750,000 in federal expenditures is required to have a single audit, which obviously the district has more. You guys are about 24 million in federal expenditures. So based on our risk assessment, we select certain programs we test throughout, within our single audit. And once again, we tested, and I'll go into more detail here shortly, but we had no control findings, no issues. We're issuing a clean, unmodified opinion on our single audit testing this year. Let's go to page 20. This is some more information on that single audit. This is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, commonly referred to as the CFA. It's a detailed breakdown of all the federal expenditures that happened during the fiscal year. You'll see total federal expenditures was $22.2 million. Based on our risk assessment, we tested 3 programs during the year. We tested the Child Nutrition Cluster. We tested the Education Stabilization Fund, which is your ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 funds. And then we also tested the Coronavirus Relief Fund. That, when you total all that, it's roughly $14.8 million of your $22 million of federal expenditures. So we tested on a sample basis roughly 67% of the total federal expenditures for the year. And as I previously said, we had no control findings, no compliance issues, no internal control issues within these 3 programs we tested. And we issued a clean report on our single audit testing. So obviously that's excellent news. All right, let's flip to page 22. This is your schedule of state assistance. So this outlines all of the revenue and all the funds that you received from the Arkansas Department of Education. The district received a little over $50 million during the year from the state. That's compared to $49.8 million in the previous year. So overall, the state funding was pretty consistent with the previous year. All right, let's flip to page 25. And this is the last report in which we're required to issue on within our regulatory base of accounting and guidance that we get from ADE. The pages after page 25 is a list of state statutes in which we're required to test to make sure the district is in compliance with all these state statutes. And once again, we did that testing. We didn't come across any issues. And we're issuing a clean, unmodified opinion report on this state statute testing. So overall, through the 4 reports that we issued, we didn't have any deficiencies, any issues, anything that would require us to present to the board tonight. So overall, a clean opinion.
Awesome. Any questions, Ms. Williams?
Would you go back to page 23? I just want to understand number 5, okay? I don't understand banking terms.
Okay. 23? Okay.
Number 5, whatever's the only, I didn't understand unmodified.
Yeah, so within the accounting jargon, kind of the kind of what we call a clean opinion is unmodified. So unmodified equals clean opinion, a good opinion. So it's just accounting jargon that we have to follow and use.
Kind of jargon. Huh?
Ma'am?
That was the answer you gave me?
Yes, it's a clean, it's a good opinion.
Thank you.
Ms. Angela Person West?
I have no questions, but I got the clean and no issues, and I trust that if a quarter was missing, you'll find it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Temple?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Wonka?
Thank you for this. It's very important that we receive this and that the public sees how we're spending our money, that we're being frugal with our taxpayers' money. So thank you for this.
JT?
No questions.
Mr. Steele?
No questions.
Thank you for your report. Awesome.
Thank you. So we have to make a motion to, so the superintendent moves to approve the FY21 annual financial audit.
Madam President?
Yes.
I so move that we accept the fiscal year 21 audit presented by HCJ CPAs and advisors.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that we accept the fiscal 21 audit presented tonight. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It has been adopted.
Thank you so much.
very
Thank you, Mr. Glover.
Thank you.
Ms. Edwards.
10.2, Board Resolution seeking partnership funds for the new middle school.
Madam President, members of our board, I'll introduce Mr. Harold Hatch, our Supervisor of Maintenance, and Mr. Darrell Tessman with the Arch Ford to give us an update, and this will be an action item to approve the resolution to provide matching funds for the 2023-25 funding biennial, bimillennial project. I'm in your guys' neck of the woods. Mr. Hatch.
Madam President, Dr. Paluski, board members, what you have is a resolution that needs to be adopted to move forward seeking the partnership funds. That number that you have in your package of 64+ million, that came about via Mr. Tessman getting the POUR requirements, which are the program of requirements necessary for our middle school population. Those numbers were given to Taggart Architects, and they came up with those bubble diagrams, if you will, that you have in your board package. That in no way states that, hey, we're going to build a middle school that looks like those diagrams. That was just incorporating those POUR requirements for the state's review. Those diagrams were given to Nabholz Construction, and they just took and put basic numbers to them, the size, and that's how they came up with the 64 million. This resolution just lets the Department of Education know that should we build a new middle school and should we get partnership funding, that the district is going to pay their portion of the bill. And I recommend adopting it.
Any questions, Mr. Steele?
No questions.
JT?
No.
Ms. Temple?
This just goes back, so you've taken the stuff that we found back to them, and they have said that they would partner with us, or we're still in the process of them deciding?
I couldn't quite hear, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Pull your
When
mic
you
up
came
closer.
before, you took stuff back to them. So have they accepted that they would partner with us, or are we still in the process of finding out if they will?
Oh, you're still in the process. First, the
Okay.
project has to be approved, and that will be notified by September of this year. If the project is approved, that means they think it's a viable project. And then you'll have to wait till May 1st of '23 before you find out if you're funded. So it really, it's a two-step process. First, you have to get approved project, good project, and then wherever the money stops flowing as far as the competition for the funding.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Williams?
Oh, no comments. Thank you for a very nice report, okay?
Ms. Walker?
So just for clarification, so the public understands, the paperwork that you sent us does not guarantee that we are building the middle school within the diaphragm that you presented to the state, correct?
That's correct. It's just a bubble diagram encompassing all the program of requirements. That's
Right.
all that is.
And then we also use that diaphragm in order to get an estimated cost,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So this is not going to be the final price tag?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, just for clarification, let's make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ms.
Yeah,
President?
I told Dr. Paluski this afternoon in a meeting that, we could build a 12-story building if we want to, so.
With solar, not a problem.
Ms. Person West?
I have no current questions.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to move that we approve the resolution to provide matching funds for the 2023-2025 funding biennium projects.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we adopt the resolution seeking partnership funds for the new middle school. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It has been adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
We're down to 10.3, resolution for COVID-19 policy and procedures for isolation and quarantine.
Thank you, Madam President, and members of our board. I would like to officially welcome Chief Finks, our new Director of Safety, Security, and Emergency Medical Services, and I know Nurse Green is with him this evening to present to you a resolution in response to the Governor's direction as it relates to contact tracing, isolations, and quarantines, to give a brief overview of the resolution we're seeking support of.
Madam President, board members, Dr. Paluski, I'm very happy to be before you this afternoon in regards to this resolution concerning the update to the policy on COVID and COVID-19 procedures for the district. So I would like to highlight just briefly some of the changes that this resolution will have. Some of the changes that the resolution will have towards the procedures. The first big change is going to be concerning quarantines. The resolution, as far as quarantines, in-school close contacts and community close contacts are not required to quarantine unless they are symptomatic. Currently, all close contacts and in-school contacts are quarantined. So that is a big measure that will allow more students to be in class where we would like for them to be instead of quarantined unnecessarily. Another change that the resolution will bring about, no one who is fully vaccinated would be required to quarantine. If there is a positive case in the home of a student or staff member, quarantine is not required unless they are symptomatic. That's huge because currently, if there is an in-home contact and there are multiple siblings attending the school district, they will have to quarantine. So this will allow more students to be in school where we would like for them to be also. There is a measure in place that if a parent would like to quarantine a student at home because of close contact in the home, they can do that without being penalized. Those days will be excused from absence. Additionally, this resolution addresses contact tracing. In-school contact tracing will take place only for pre-K and special need classrooms. Currently, our nursing staff, which have done a very good job throughout the pandemic, have been overwhelmed at times due to all of the contact tracing that has been taking place. So this measure will be tremendous as far as lessening the burden on the nursing staff. As far as contact tracing, the requirements for pre-K are somewhat different due to the fact that these students are ineligible for COVID vaccines, and then sometimes they're unable to properly wear their masks. So that would be one of the exceptions. Another thing that's huge that this resolution brings to the procedures, symptomatic testing in school. The North Little Rock School District has been approved by the Arkansas Department of Health for on-site COVID-19 testing of symptomatic students and staff. And so this means if a student does have symptoms at the school, with permission from the parent and other measures that have to be in place, the nursing staff will be able to test that student, and if they are negative, we don't have to quarantine them or send them home, which again will allow more students to be in school where we would like for them to be instead of unnecessarily at the house. And so with that, those are the key changes to the policy that is currently in place. And so myself and Nurse Green, who is the point of contact for COVID-19, are prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Person West?
I was kind of collecting my thoughts, but I guess what I was kind of just sitting here thinking about, I know that pre-K kindergarten is 4 or 5, which we know they can't have vaccinations now, right?
5 years old and up can.
5 years old and
Under
okay.
4 and under cannot at this time.
Okay, so that eliminates the pre-K.
The
Maybe,
5
possibly, if they're super smart, maybe a few of them in kindergarten. So, let me make sure I'm asking this back to make sure that I'm understanding it. So, if you have a 5-year-old, that's kindergarten, you have a pre-K that's in the same house. If the pre-K comes up positive, does the 5-year-old, they can still go to school even though
Correct.
they're not, I mean, even though they're, if they vaccinated?
Or unvaccinated because they're a 5-year-old and they fall under the kindergarten rules. So pre-K has a separate set of rules that we kind of took off of. So most of the kids in pre-K, even some of the kindergartners, they do not wear their mask correctly and appropriately. I mean, they're young babies. I mean, it is what it is. And so the way the state looked at it was pre-K kids, if they're 5 and older, most of them can wear it. If a parent chooses to keep that 5-year-old home, yes, but we're trying to, kindergarten and up, we're trying to keep the kids in school. The pre-K kids, we've kind of made the positive student would stay out the 10 days because we know that positive student is not going to wear that mask correctly. But the close contacts that we would contact trace in pre-K only because they do not wear their mask appropriately or correctly. So we will contact trace. The ones that we quarantine will only have to quarantine from 5 days from the exposure of that child. And they will be able to come back on day 6. And as long as they're not having any symptoms, they will be able to remain at school. And that's going to help the parents. Because we were keeping the kids out for 10 days, even, because that's how the pre-K rules were before, was 10 days on close contacts and positive. So, you know, you have a student that was a close contact last week, came back for 3 days, another student has turned positive. Well, that pre-K student is out for another 10 days. I mean, that's 20 days that poor parent is trying to figure out
What
how
do
to
I
get
do
to
with
work.
you?
And
So let me ask this. So if you have a kindergarten student, if they're not vaccinated, those same rules apply because we still can't ask, correct?
I can ask for purposes
Right.
of, yes. but-
Because of health and you're in the
Correct.
health profession and you,
Yes.
okay. So, okay, interesting. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Wonka?
I'm good. Great job.
I'm processing as I'm thinking of here.
I got to be processing all night.
Yeah, I'm just going, okay.
And Chief Finks, welcome. Nice to officially meet you and see you. I'm so glad you're here. And thank you for the security measures you've already upgraded for us. And I know you've got a large task in front of you. I apologize. But thank you. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Williams?
Very good report, thank you.
Yes, I too am glad you're here. I love the change in the quarantine because I just had a student who was out for 20 days, never sick, but had it in the house, and he was quite unhappy, and it didn't seem necessary. What I don't like, and I'm just wondering, when can these go? I just do not, you leave this building.
I'll be happy to jump in there if you want.
Leave this building and there's masks nowhere. And then we come into here and we have to put on our mask. But you go ahead.
So I'll be happy to entertain that. So obviously that's a big question, right? And we always promised our community we would watch the data. We would bring to the board if we felt there was an opportunity that we could relax on masks. Our numbers are continuing to downward trend. And so in our team meeting, possibly we believe before spring break, or maybe after spring break, that we would be bringing a resolution to make them optional. Certainly if somebody wants to continue to wear them, they should have the opportunity to be able to do that. But we believe we're close.
Yes. We kind of look at it like this, you know, we want to look at the data to make sure, since we're not going to be quarantining any students that we know that they've got positives in the house, we're just trying to make sure, I mean, I feel like if we take everything away at once, it's just going to be a storm.
So you're,
And it's kind of like, if a doctor gives you 5 medications for one thing, well, it's working, but how do you know which one of
When to
those
stop.
things is working? So we just want to be on the safe side and just kind of gradually move away.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, let me make sure I'm hearing this correctly. We're going to make sure this is working well. And then by spring break, we'll be reevaluating mask. And if that's the case, I can support this.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
JT?
I didn't invent this phrase, but work smarter, not harder. I'm glad we're going to have kids that are staying in school, pending, symptoms and all that. I think it's going to help you out. You're going to be quarantining to your kids, but you're probably going to spend even more time on the phone explaining things to parents because they're going to be very confused.
Correct.
And so there's a lot of moving parts here. So good luck handling those conversations. But I'm glad to see we're constantly reevaluating the plan.
Thank you.
If you have a vaccination and you have symptoms, you no longer have to quarantine.
Really,
How are
you
you-
should, really,
how
you
are you gonna-
should
Yes.
quarantine and get a test or an alternate diagnosis from a doctor and be able to come back to work or school. So since I'm vaccinated,
Right.
and I'm feeling sick, my choices are, I'm either gonna go to the doctor and see my physician, or I'm gonna just run to the drive-through or, to get a test real fast.
And
Then
if you
it's
test.
negative,
Okay,
then
there
I'm
I'm
gonna
going.
go on about my business and come to work or school.
With the symptoms. You can.
You can.
So you're gonna have to manage that with your
As long
staff.
as we've had a negative PCR test, which is the most accurate, yes.
Do you have plenty of testing kits?
We have plenty. We got 440 in from the ADH, and I can order as much as I want as we see the need.
Thank
So
you.
with our symptomatic testing, we have to get a doctor's written standing order. That's in the process. I've got the CLEVA waiver from the Arkansas Department of Health for us to be able to do it. And we just gonna have to get the consent forms out to parents.
Thank you.
I have, I have another question now that I've been sitting here. I told you I had a process for a minute. Okay, when you brought up the, Mr. Steele, the test, what about, are we doing have you all looked at doing a test to class type thing? I heard about a couple of districts doing that as far
That
as
was
taking
the
the.
test to stay.
Test to stay, yes.
That's that was really for close contacts in school settings. And we have that capability because we actually had applied for it, were approved for it, but that was at the end of December once we got all the supplies in. And then, of course, Christmas, and then
Everybody was
and then
positive
crazy.
then. Right.
So we never were able to implement that program, but we're doing the symptomatic testing, which,
So let me look at it like this. If I come to you and I say, oh my gosh, Nurse Green, I got a sore throat and I don't feel good. And you say, oh my gosh, you got a fever. Then I take a test.
only if you're.
If I'm saying that I feel so sick, right?
It will be on the the nurse will have to assess and on the parent's decision.
Okay. So the parent has to be involved for them
Absolutely.
to test. Okay.
Absolutely. And we would never, we will have consent forms on file and say, I call your mom because you come in, but I don't have a consent form. And we can talk about it and say, she can get tested, go to her doctor and see and get an alternate diagnosis because there is other things out there other than COVID.
Absolutely.
And we kind of look at it like that. If the parent says, well, go ahead and test her so I know, because a lot of times
My mom will leave me there probably. No, I'm just playing.
And then we will have an electronic form also that we're going to be able to send to them, or when they come to pick the child up, we'll just go out there, get them to sign it. We can swab them then, but we're never going to do anything without the parent involved.
Okay. If I have any more questions, I'll say those for later. But right now, I'm good.
Before I entertain a motion, I just want to say you've been doing a wonderful job.
Yes.
We're 3 years in now.
I'm
A good two.
I think it's
Solid
two. 1.5
Well,
really.
this is
like three.
2020.
Seems like 3, huh?
It feels like 3.
It feels like 10.
You've been doing a wonderful job, and welcome, Mr. Finks.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the COVID-19 policy and procedure for isolation and quarantine in the part of the resolution.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that we accept the resolution for COVID-19 policy and procedure for isolation and quarantine. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It has been adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Reeves. Thank you, Nurse Green.
We are down to employee bonus.
Yes, Madam President, members of our board, I will invite Mr. Jacob Smith, Executive Director of Human Resources, to just to provide a brief overview of our $1,500 bonus to our employees.
Absolutely. Thank you all again. This would be a $1,500 payment, non-recurring, to all of our employees in the form of a bonus. What we have before you is the yellow sheet which kind of outlines the proposal, and then we have our legal counsel approved motion, suggested board motion, and the eccentricities of how this bonus would be paid out. And so if there are any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them.
Just one quick one. How does that work or does it work any differently for hourly workers?
Yes, sir. So if you'll notice on the suggested board motion sheet, the green outlines individuals, kind of how the payment would be structured for those that work less than an 8-hour day or an 8-hour day, and it takes you through that. And so this is the way the bonus has been given in the past, and this is the type of process we've used to prorate and to award the amount on different varying schedules.
And that tax issue, the way we've done it, I don't know, were you here the last time we done the bonuses? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So I wasn't here the last time we did the bonus, but I know what you're
Mr.
speaking
Brown.
of.
Okay.
And Mr. Brown and his finance team have explored both options, whether it would be paid in a separate check, a 25th check, or embedded in one of the 24 regular payments. It's more beneficial to embed it in one of the 24 regular payments for tax purposes. So that's how we would suggest it would be paid out.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.
JT. Ms. Williams?
Will it come in separate checks whenever you do it? That's been always a concern in the past. They said,
No.
No, ma'am. It's my understanding that it would be embedded in one of the regular 24 checks.
okay, thank you.
I'm all set.
I do have a question, piggyback off of what Ms. Williams said. Is it possible to do a separate check? I mean, because that would kind of help the teachers out a little bit. It won't?
It would be less beneficial money-wise.
Oh, okay.
They would net less money.
Okay. I was thinking that if it was all
It-
lumped together, it would kind of make the taxes higher, but,
And it's a little out of my lane, but there's a federal taxation implication by it being a 25th check.
okay, got you.
I got
That
Brian to
makes sense,
answer
but I
that.
was just making sure they got as much as possible.
Yeah, and it made sense, like I said, that doesn't make sense to me. Brian explained it, and he said you would be taxed at your regular tax rate if you do it embedded. And if you don't, it can bump you up to a different tax rate.
Correct.
We don't want that.
It doesn't make it go up like I
It
thought
doesn't help
would.
everybody, but it does help some.
Yes.
Got you. Okay, makes sense. That's my only question. Thank you so much.
I do want to make clear, though, although it may adjust the withholdings on this check, at the end of the day, it's the same amount of income, and they're going to have to pay the same amount of taxes, right? I mean, it's just additional income on top of what you make. I mean, that's how tax tables work.
Correct.
So, I mean, they may save a little up front, but they may have to pay it in taxes later. Just,
We can't adjust our withholdings on the month, right?
Right, I mean, if you do it, separate, your tax automatically with federal for 25%.
Uh-huh.
Because it's considered a bonus. So it's
Gotcha.
25% off top
Okay.
for federal.
Okay.
And you have all your other taxes with that.
okay.
Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move that we approve item 10.4, employee bonus, $1,500.
Second.
Second. Oh.
I apologize.
Wow, it's a third.
Before you guys vote on that.
Wait a minute.
There is a suggested board motion that
thank you. I
Mr.
was
Beckett
about
was
to-
very clear
I was
that
about
it
to
would
say
be
that.
approved through that mechanism.
Thank you. I
Teachers,
was
we were
about
trying to
say
give
that.
y'all the money
Thank you.
real fast.
I was about to say that. There is a suggested motion.
It's
Someone
top.
would
You
make
want to
the
read it,
motion.
Mr. Steele?
I can. It's the
Get
one
your
at the top.
glasses.
I move to approve the LPPC and the CPPC recommendation for a one-time, non-recurring salary payment to all non-temporary, non-substitute, full-time employees of the district who are contracted for employment on February 17th, 2022.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that we approve the LPPC and CPPC recommendation for a one-time, recurring salary payment to all non-temporary, non-substitute, full-time employees of the district who are contracted for employment on February 17, 2022. Is there any further discussion?
I just have a comment. It is very clear that Mr. Beckett was involved in the writing of that motion. But no, that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Beckett. Listen.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It has been approved.
Thank you, Board.
Can I should have asked, when will they get the money?
That is at the behest of finance, but Dr. Paluski has directed that as soon as we can reasonably do it, it will be distributed.
Only if you were present at tonight's board meeting, right? No, just playing.
Thank you.
We're down to disposition of minutes of prior meetings.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the disposition of minutes from January 20th, 2022.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we accept the disposition of minutes of prior meetings. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It has been adopted. We're next, the 2021 annual board meeting training hours.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the superintendent recommends the approval of the previous 3 years of carryover hours of training for school board members.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the annual board member training hours from the last 3 years for carryover.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that we accept the 2021 annual board member training hours. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It has been adopted. Down at 10.7, Central Office Administration Reorganization Plan Proposal, Phase 1.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, for the record, my name is Greg Paluski, the proud superintendent of the North Little Rock School District. This evening, is that too loud? Maybe back a little further? How's that? Okay. This evening, I'd like to present to you the Central Office Administration Organization Plan Phase 1. Mr. Jay Beckett, our Chief Legal Counsel, was to be with me this evening. Is that still okay? Was supposed to be with me this evening, but he has been in court, and he will unfortunately is able to be here this evening. However, I will share with you that Mr. Beckett has reviewed what I'm getting ready to share with you and the public, and has approved it. Before I begin, I also want to be clear to you and as well as the public that after this, we will post this presentation in the board packet in which you have before you. So the purpose of this presentation is to seek Board of Education member approval of what I'm referring to as our Central Office Administration Reorganization Plan Phase 1 for the sole purpose of improving our level of service and support to our schools to simply improve instruction. As a superintendent, as I came on board November the 1st, I've been very open and transparent to our Board of Education and the public about the need to reorganize central office. And I'm going to go through some of my rationale this evening. It is also within my goals, and it has also been within the strategic or the 100-day transition plan summary report. And so where I want to start is, if you remember all the way back in December, we launched a new vision for the North Little Rock School District, and that is about preparing students to find their passion, right? So that when they graduate, they're going to graduate not only future ready, innovation ready, and global ready. And I believe that that is about the future of our organization as we move forward. We also launched in December our moral imperative that as a community, all of our children will achieve. And so with that is about every child deserves a high-quality teacher, they deserve a high-quality leader, and they need to be in a safe and supportive learning environment. And that last sentence to me is bold, and because I believe that that's what we're about, not allowing an achievement gap to exist within our school district. And that is the bold commitment that we need to make, not only to our community, but to our children for their future. So if you go all the way back into April, which is just around 10 months ago, I launched to you my analysis of being in the district for 6 months, otherwise known as the Superintendent's 100-Day Transition Plan Summary Report that outlined a whole host of quantitative and qualitative data, listening to the needs of our organization. And I've also appreciated this board's support for myself, as noted in the school board resolution of the support of the 100-day plan in May. And I think bringing awareness to everyone's attention of our current state. You also saw in December E for the Future initiative, where we really talked about some of our challenges, right? Whether that's declining enrollment, maybe an outdated vision, that lack of focus on academic rigor, and certainly our stagnant or achievement data. This is a slide I want to draw to your attention. You've seen this slide before. It was in the 100-day transition plan report. And this is prior to COVID-19 data. And when you look at our trend data, and this is proficiency on grade level from 17, 18, and 19, you can see there's not been much movement in this area. And as we've been talking about, that is our current state of reality. But our even more recent state of reality, and I think Dr. Hooper did a great job explaining the law, the ESSER accountability law, and specifically this side. Again, remember last year we weren't held accountable to that, but it was another data point. And the big story out of this is, number one, all of our schools have to improve. And what is alarming out of this to me is when you look at this data, that in some cases, in some schools, in some grade levels, 80% of our students are not reading on grade level. Let me say that again. 80% of our students are not reading on grade level. We know that the pandemic has had an impact. That's not an excuse. This is just our current state of reality. And the notion here is we've got lots of room for improvement. And so when I look at the data, whether I was preparing to interview for the superintendency, having been here, what glares at me when I look at the data is loose alignment. And we've been talking about this as a theme in our district, loose, whether we're talking about safety and security, but when we get down into instruction and about what it's going to take to improve instruction, there's loose alignment, right? There's loose alignment between curriculum, which is the written curriculum, what's taught, that's the standard, the instructional delivery, which is actually what's taught, and then actually what's assessed. And so whether you look at it pre-K through 12, although we've made some areas of improvement, but generally speaking, it's very loose alignment between those three things. And often what we have in some cases is teachers pulling things off the internet. They may be aligned and they may not be aligned, and which is further causing the indication to me of this loose alignment. In some cases, as I've talked to teachers, they're using materials that are over 25 years old. over 25 years old. So the shift in thinking and the shift in our work is around what's on the right side of this, which is strategically aligning those three pieces, right? The curriculum, the standard, the written, the tested. So the research is very clear that the more learning is achieved when the work or the standard to what's actually taught and what's actually assessed are in alignment to one another, which is why I've called for the curriculum management audit that is going to begin here in the next few weeks. So although there are many areas that we have to look at improvement, and you know I'm a big John Cotter disciple of the change process, which is, I believe, is a cycle that has been tried and true for decades of creating the sense of urgency, right, building a guiding coalition, and we're in this form of a strategic vision and initiatives of going forward. And so one of the areas that it points to is our current organizational structure. And as I've listened to board members, as I've listened to our central office staff, our central office administration organizational structure hasn't changed for 10 to 15 years. And in meeting with one board member, maybe even longer. And so one of the things, it's just simply put, is that I don't believe as the leader of the school system, we're organized in a way that is going to be able to catapult and move our school district to its next level of performance. So in this reorganization phase one, it is really about four key pillars. Number one is to be more effective and efficient at our level of services and differentiated services to our schools. We know from the research there's only one individual that has the most direct impact, other than a parent or guardian, on a child's education. That's the classroom teacher. The second individual that has the most direct impact on that classroom is the principal. And we go back to our moral imperative: high-quality teachers, high-quality leaders. So the focus of this reorganization is to, number one, support principals further in their instructional leadership. Number two is to support our classroom teachers with the resources that they need, the coaching that they need to directly impact that alignment of the curriculum instruction assessment. And what I believe in this reorganization structure is more effective and efficient delivery to schools with very detailed, intentional work aimed at improvement. And that's what our data says. The time is now that we need to act in order to move our school district to its next level of performance. So I want to explain to you our reorganization plan phase one. I'm going to go left to right. I'm going to go position by position so that you, as well as the public, have a clear understanding of this proposal. You'll see number one and number two are both of our executive directors. Currently in their job descriptions, our executive directors of elementary curriculum, assessment, and accountability is his job title, but I will tell you it is much more encompassing than that. They're not only responsible for coordinating all the curriculum in those areas, all the assessments in those areas, the professional development in those areas, managing and supporting schools, and evaluating schools. Simply put, the job description is too broad to be effective at moving our school district forward, both of those positions. They're both FTEs, which is 12-month, 245-day, currently as exists. So in this proposal, my proposal is a contract non-renewal for both of these positions under the Teacher Fair Dismissal Act. In the Teacher Fair Dismissal Act, meaning this work will go away June 30th of this academic school year. And I'm going to talk about what it's actually going to be reorganized into a moment, but I'll talk about Teacher Fair Dismissal. That means those individuals that would be impacted would get a letter. They have the right under Teacher Fair Dismissal in 30 days to have a hearing. And it also, this proposal would have to go to LPPC, and we'll talk about that. So the new vision of the work is reorganizing. So what we're doing in this proposal is that position is no longer going to exist, nor does the work goes away as well. And so what I'm proposing is we split out the work. And so the new position that will get created by FY23 is the Executive Director of Elementary School Performance and the Executive Director of School Performance. You'll notice in your packet you have Appendix A, which is organizational charts, which is what I'm going to go over here in a minute towards the end, and also have Appendix B, and the public will have this as well. There's over 50 pages of detailed job descriptions and the vision that I have for the work that I believe is necessary and needed in order to move us forward. The directors of school performance, 98% of their jobs will be in schools. supporting principals. Supporting principals, coaching them, looking at systems and structures, observing with them, being part of the school improvement process, being a part of PLCs, observing their leadership meetings, coaching them on the necessary instructional leadership skills that are required to drive continuous improvement. This is a budgeted position. It's within the operating budget. My proposal is reorganization is when operating, and then that position, those positions, both of those will report to the deputy superintendent. Position number 3, which is the Director of Virtual Academy. I'm also recommending this is a contract non-renewal for this coming school year. Again, this work will go away and it will be reorganized. That predominantly role is completely 100% the Virtual Academy and testing. I'm going to show you in a minute the proposal to split out those responsibilities to be able to deepen that work. This proposal calls for the elimination of that position and reorganizing it to the Executive Director of Curriculum Innovation and Design. As I've said to you when I've analyzed this, we, as a school system our size, a division of curriculum instruction doesn't exist. And for us to move forward, we have to better manage and coordinate our curricular resources across the district. The primary responsibility of that role will be to manage the coordination, the planning, to ensure that we have a high-quality curriculum in every single one of our content areas. We have updated resources that are aligned to be able to support our classroom teachers. That position will also directly supervise 11 FTEs, and I will go through that as well. Again, that is a reorganized position. It is within the operating, and that will report to the deputy superintendent as well. The 4th position in this first phase is the elementary technical facilitator. This position in my proposal is another contract, non-renewal, meaning that work will go away at the end of the school year. Again, through teachers' fair dismissal, we'll go through all that process as well. And my proposal is to reorganize the position to the coordinator of accountability, assessment, and data management. You heard last week from Dr. Hooper on the federal accountability measure. This position is not only about testing, it's about data, it's about understanding the law, it's about helping schools understand where they can make greatest gains within their schools based upon the law, as well as data management. So this is about working with school teams in their school improvement. It's also to manage our teacher evaluation data, our principal evaluation data. And again, that is a reorganized position operating at the district level, which also, in this case, will report to the Executive Director of Curriculum Innovation and Design. You'll see in your board packet, there is a minimal budget impact on these 2 positions specifically in 3-4 because they're being elevated at my recommendation to the director level, to executive level, and to the facilitator level, to the coordinator level. And there's room in the budget to be able to, as we talk about salary lapse. So in any organization, our organization is around $600,000 in salary lapse. So what do I mean by that is when we budget salaries, when we budget that at the time, so if we had an employee that was making $6,000 and they left our organization to an employee that we hired at $30,000, there's a $30,000 gap. So this is very minimal about moving those positions categorically from where they are currently. But I believe it's what it's going to take to not only attract high-quality candidates to be able to do that, but the level of work that I'm asking to be done in these areas. I also promised to you all the way back in the 100-day transition plan about adding 7 curriculum coordinators. And so I'm going to take these one by one as well. These positions do not exist. These are new positions, and I'll explain the funding. The first is the coordinator of early childhood and school readiness. Simply put, we have to do a better job of closing the achievement gap before grade 2. And our mission as a school district is that every child should be able to read and compute by the end of grade 2. That would make a tremendous trajectory difference in our reading across this district. Currently, our coordinator at the pre-K, our Parkview, has been in charge of district-wide, as not only running her building, but also has been supervising pre-K teachers across the entire district. So we've made that shift today that they are actually supervised under the principal, but I need that leader to stay focused on that individual school while we coordinate this effort. And you're going to see a whole theme about reading. This position can be funded temporarily through ESSER 2, which is federal funds, and we believe in looking at our budget, which is the ESA funds, which are state funds, that we'll be able to, in outlier years, be able to shift it from federal to actually state money. And so the point here is there's no impact to the current operating budget. So although we're increasing it, we're doing it with federal funds and then state funds. Again, if you look at Appendix B, you'll see very detailed job descriptions for this job as well. The next position is the Coordinator of Elementary Reading and Integrated Literacy. I think our data speaks for itself that we need a much better coordination of our literacy effort across this district, pre-K through 12. Again, the funding source through ESSER 1 and 2. These positions would all report to the Executive Director of Curriculum Innovation and Design. Position 7, which is, again, the secondary side, the Coordinator of Secondary Reading, English, and Integrated Literacy. Again, that sole purpose is coordinating and working with the elementary and the early childhood to streamline our literacy program and deepen this work across the district. Again, funding source remains the same. Executive Director reporting to. And then the same thing on math, which is a Coordinator of Elementary Mathematics, and you'll see on the second slide, which is the Coordinator of Secondary Mathematics. Again, the theme here, the big accountability piece is in reading and mathematics, and we need to put our resources specifically in this area in order to move. The 10th position is the Coordinator of Innovative Virtual Learning Programs. This job description is much more encompassing of our virtual program offerings beyond just our virtual academy, our Pearson platform 2.0. So this means coordinating our credit recovery program, how we're doing learning labs within our day, a better coordinated effort of not only our K-12 program that we offer really outside, but what we offer inside, what we offer at our alternative school, what we offer in our evenings, Saturday school. We have to have a much more coordinated effort of our virtual learning options to meet a variety of needs within our district. And the last position, which is position 11, is the Coordinator of School Innovation. I launched a bold vision for our district known as E for the Future. This position will be dedicated to advance that work. Since we've launched E for the Future, it's come to my understanding that there actually is an Office of School Innovation in the Department of Education. I've reached out to them. They're excited to work with us and to be able to launch our efforts. As I mentioned to you this week, I toured 11 schools of innovation designated by the state in Springdale. And when I asked the question, are there any districts of school innovation, they said no. I'd like to be the first district of innovation in the state of Arkansas. And this launches a direct support to be able to do that. Appendix A, which you'll see, are the new organizational charts. Again, this shows the executive director of elementary school performance and their duties and responsibilities as who they would directly supervise. Again, more detailed if you want to look at the job description, which is in Appendix B. Same thing for the Department of Secondary School Performance. You know, and here's the other thing that I want to be clear about is in school performance, by design, by the nature of this, is ramping up a higher level of support for our school principals. And with a higher level of support comes a higher level of accountability. And my expectation by design is schools to perform. And we need to support our schools in order to do that. And again, a detailed job description would be in Appendix A. And finally is the Department of Curriculum Innovation. This would be our new department that we would create, the executive director. You can see how we're organizing our instructional resources now under one umbrella: accountability, early childhood, all the ones that I've mentioned. Also, I'd like to point out that our gifted and talented coordinator, Ms. Curlin, would shift from where her responsibilities are and now would be up under the Department of Curriculum Innovation and Design. Our English language, remember this was Ms. Touchstone's position. We've been interviewing for that now. That would fall under the Department of Curriculum Innovation and Design. And our Career Academy coach, which is Mr. Bruce, who's leading up our Ford NGL work, that would fall now under the Department of Curriculum Innovation and Design, designated by an asterisk which ones are new positions funded by ESSER 2 and 3. But as you can see, the focus of this Phase 1 proposal is to support principals, number one, and to support teachers with organizing our instructional resources to further support our classroom teachers in the work of advancing and improving teaching and learning. And last, I'll just kind of leave with this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. I recognize that change is difficult. I recognize that. I recognize that change is a process. I've said this very clearly from the board from day one. I'm not here to fight with anybody. I'm not here to make enemies with anybody. I'm not here to make friends either. You've hired me to serve as children and improve outcomes for children. I know you're going to hold me accountable. I'm going to hold myself accountable. But in turn, we're going to hold each other accountable to the performance, because it goes back to our vision and it goes back to our moral imperative that we're not going to allow an achievement gap, and we're going to make difficult decisions to change the trajectory of the lives of the students that we serve and the families that we serve. You just can't hide that charging wildcat pride. I know that's a lot. I know that's phase one. I'm very passionate about our school district. I'm very passionate, thought a lot about what I think it's going to take in order to move our school system forward. And I'm just seeking your support for this proposal of reorganization in phase one. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Ms. Williams, do you have any questions?
Processing.
We'll come back to you.
Ms.
Sure.
Angela Person West?
My foot started going to sleep, so I had to prop it. So,
Sure.
Excellent report. Make sure everybody can hear me. Excellent report. I definitely support your vision, and I understand too that change is hard, but it's sometimes necessary. I do have a question real quick for you.
Sure.
Because I don't know everyone. I'm still learning people and knowing faces. Are all your department heads here, or the people that...
They are not. All our department heads and our executive team are not here this evening.
So we have made possible job changes coming, and your department heads are not here?
That's correct. Some of them are not here this evening.
Real interesting. That says a lot. Thank you.
So let me clarify that. Let me just, before I say that, I have not required them to be here either. So I want to make that clear, that the stance that I have with our executive team is I want to be mindful of their lives outside of here, and I ask them to be here if they're on our board agenda in support of that. So I do want to make that clear.
And I get that, and I understand that, but when you have 80% of your students not up to par as far as reading, then, and you have possible changes that are getting ready to occur, it would just seem to me that, your at least heads will be present to make sure that we kind of can get all on the same page and get an understanding of what's going on, so we don't have people going back out trying to report the news. They're here to get it themselves. So I'm real big on, making sure that if you are in a position to make changes and impact lives, then you should be a part of that process too. So I get it. I'm not necessarily required to be here either, but I do care about North Little Rock. I care about the schools, and I care about the decisions that are being made to impact not just, personal children that I know, but everybody's child. So to me, 80%, that's that
it's alarming.
It makes me want to cry, because
it's alarming.
And I mean, this is coming from somebody that a mother taught for 42 years. And it's real heartbreaking, and it's hard to listen to children not being able to read.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Person West.
Yes, I don't have any questions, just comment. I mean, it's unfortunate that there's changes that need to be made, but we knew that, and I appreciate the effort you put into that, and I look forward to seeing the results.
Thank you.
Ms. Wonkum.
So just for clarification purposes,
Sure.
I'd like to clarify.
Sure.
The individuals that will not receive a contract could and can and are allowed to apply for these new positions?
Absolutely. All 11 positions, if they meet any of the qualifications, absolutely. We would encourage that.
And then, in addition, we also are going to put out a job, what is it, a job request? Is that how
So
we
the job
post it?
descriptions. So, yep. So based upon the advice of Mr. Beckett. So number one, after this, we're going to post this presentation and we're going to post your board packet to the public. At the legal advice of Mr. Beckett is to post all these jobs tomorrow.
Okay. And so when we post them, anyone and everyone who is qualified
Absolutely.
under the description.
Absolutely. And usually we have a 7-day window. I'm going to open it for well over 30 days.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
JD?
I do have need to fix my mic here. I do have a couple of questions and comments.
Sure.
So these new positions are going to be more focused on curriculum and coaching of staff. Because you talked about the previous positions were a little too broad.
Mm-hmm.
The duties that were covered by that previous position, I assume the things that are being whittled out are logistical, day-to-day sort of things. Where are those going to land? Like, I mean, if these people aren't doing the same work as before, they're more focused on academics and curriculum. What about the sort of operational side?
Of schools?
Yes.
Sure. So that falls in the area of school performance. So you're talking about managing. So if you're talking about,
Okay.
There's a parent is angry about a situation, who's going to handle that? That's the executive director of school performance.
Okay.
So they are going to, number one, 98% of those jobs of their jobs that I talk about, they're going to live in schools. In fact, I'm probably going to move their offices into the community in which they serve. So they will be highly visible in schools, helping that principal move their work forward. So when we think about day-to-day of schools and what happens in schools, that's in the area of Office of School Performance. All of the management of curriculum, programs, alignment, all of that falls within the division of Curriculum Innovation and Design.
Okay. I hope that when we move forward, we're going to make every effort to limit disruption. This is a huge change. It's a sea change, from the an administration point of view, and I hope that we will support the people who are in the current roles, whose roles are being phased out, whether they choose to apply or not. I certainly hope they do.
Sure.
I certainly hope they are considered along with the others in the same way.
Absolutely.
And all of that being said, because I do have what I see as conflict of interest, I do know a number of the people who are being affected tonight. I've known them for many years. On a personal level, I will probably be abstaining. I'm not going to vote against it, but I'll probably step back on this vote because I feel like I'm very connected to some of these folks and probably just need to not involve myself in this vote tonight. Just wanted to give a reason why. It's not a protest vote. It's simply, I think that's the best choice for me. Thank you.
Mr. Steele?
Yes, it's a few quick questions, I promise. If you could go back to Executive Director of Curriculum.
Sure.
Just that got by me. Could you explain, you got new/vacant, and then down you have vacant.
Sure.
Can you expound on that?
Sure. I'll be happy to. So if you're referring to the individuals that will directly report to the executive director. So for an example, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions that are there, those positions are either number one, reorganized, so the accountability is a reorganization, early childhood, elementary reading, elementary math, secondary math, innovative virtual learning, school innovation. Those are the new positions that will be funded by ESSER 2. The English as a secondary language, which as I believe you're referring to in world languages, that was a position that was held, if you remember, by Ms. Touchstone. She had retired, had gone to the state. That position is in the budget. It has been vacant. and we're actually in the process of interviewing candidates. So that's not necessarily a reorged position, although we did reorganize the description without the individual, once the individual vacated. And then the other positions there are folks that are currently positions that we're just moving them organizationally from where they report to now have the Division of Curriculum Instruction, where we're housing and integrating that collaboration with all of our content areas.
Okay.
Did that help, Mr. Steele?
It did.
Okay.
It did. Thank you. Now I understand all of these new hire will be through an internal process, right? Meaning we're not going out, we're not getting a private firm.
Oh no, we're not getting a private firm for any of this. Although we will advertise for these jobs across the United States. For an example, Ed Week has top school jobs. That's an avenue that we can use to publicize. We're going to use our Arkansas Administrators Association to be able to advertise, but we're not third-partying any of this. We'll use our existing as well as some to be able to publicize.
That leads to the next question.
Sure.
So once these new individuals are hired, and
yes,
I'm glad you mentioned it may be out of state if you're going to advertise nationally. These be one-year contracts?
Well, they would fall under teacher fair dismissal, my understanding, because they'd all be licensed. And if they're licensed, they would just be like everybody else, which would be year-to-year contracts. I can double-check that with Mr. Beckett, but that's my understanding of the Teacher Fair Dismissal Act with contracts. The only ones that have multiple contracts would be the superintendent, deputy, or assistant superintendent.
Mm-hmm. And I do like your chain of command there, and will Deputy Hooper will be involved in this hiring process.
She's going to be busy. We're going to be busy. Yes, as you can see, these three executive positions report directly to her. Mm-hmm. So she will be intimately involved in the hiring process of all these individuals as we go through the process of making recommendations to myself so that I can make a recommendation to you as the board.
And lastly, and I think we should act on this, but I think also I really value the input of the LPPC.
Sure.
And just how we move further and move forward in the district. So I think getting their input, and I think community stakeholders, and actually leadership. I mean, the existing principles and so forth, that once this is, if it's approved, that yes, make the time and effort to make sure that our internal folks know what's going on, know what's happening. It's only fair for them.
Sure.
They may not be directly impacted.
Sure.
And they may want to seek other opportunities.
Sure, and I know our LPPC represents our teacher, our licensed, and
Right.
we have our administrators on there, but absolutely.
I
I'll be
don't know
happy
why
to.
they would, because I think this is a pretty aggressive change, and we all say we won't change. But I think they should be notified and respected. We got a lot of people, principals and others, who just sometimes don't feel their input is valuable, don't feel they've been included in the decision-making process. But they're certainly key people in our district. Thank you, Madam President.
I just have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
And when it's posted, will the salary scales or whatever?
So the
include?
salary scales will be based on the licensure. If you recall, in the licensed personnel, which will all of these fall, it will depend on their teacher licensure scale. And then if you go down to the right-hand corner, it has a percentage for, director, executive director, those, though it's based. What we don't have, which I'd love to move forward in the future, is more of an executive scale. But right now, it's based on the LPPC teacher licensure.
But if I'm on the outside, I guess what I'm saying is, if I saw the position, how would I know how much it pays?
Sure. So we can work with HR with that. If you similar to what I did on the deputy superintendent, where we gave a range, we can certainly do that. We can certainly put that out there. I can work with HR to give a range on all these positions just so those that are applying would have.
an
Sure.
idea. Before you apply for a position,
Sure.
it'd be nice to know
Sure.
where you might fall.
Sure.
Makes sense. The motion is on page 2. If somebody wants to.
I told you I was trying to process.
Oh, I am so sorry, Ms.
Ms.
Williams.
Williams.
Are you done processing?
Yes, Mr. Steele, you still had something to say?
Just one little, I'm
Go
not sure if
ahead.
I got a kind of answer. I think you kind of went straight to Madam President about communicating and with our
Sure,
leadership and-
if you're asking me to meet with the principals, sure, I can have a
No, I'm not-
conversation.
I mean, is that in the plan?
Well, normally, doing focus groups and all of that, certainly it's within the superintendent's authority to reorganize the district as he or she sees fit, which is in my duties. And one is to go through the process and seek support. If you're asking me to have a conversation specifically with all of our principals, sure, I'd be happy to do that. And have a conversation with them, sure. We do have principals that serve on LPPC. We have a middle school principal, a high school principal, or a elementary principal, and teachers as well. And I believe that's the platform.
I think it would
of-
bode well for us moving forward.
Sure, I'll be happy to.
And then other, certainly stakeholders and the person who's over the PTA,
PTA council?
Yes, PTA council, people that really have an intimate stake in the operations, just would be good to let them know what's going on and how the district is moving forward.
Sure, I could, I can use my advisory councils to do that. Sure, I'd be happy
Thank
to
you, Madam
share with
President.
them.
Ms. Williams?
Yes, Dr. Paluska, thank you for your presentation, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I do know that we need a change, okay? But change is to benefit the students. And the part is, and I want the public to know, that this had to be followed by policy, that you just had to come and give us this, the board, that, and no one else. Jay Beckett told you, I'm sure, that if you do this presentation, it has to be openly.
Yes, ma'am.
And you cannot reach the people that it would be affected by.
Correct.
You could not do
That's
that.
by legal counsel. In fact, as you know, that's why I'm having this conversation. I couldn't even have it with you in executive closed session.
And
that's why Mr. Beckett advised me to present this openly to the public.
I wanted the public to
Thank you.
clearly understand that much. And my thing is, I'm like Mr. Steele now. I do want to see the needs of these persons that you are trying, that whatever the board decides tonight, that they will not be left out, that we are still dealing with people from within the district prioritized. And because to me, anytime you're talking about removing someone, you're talking about the livelihood, and it hurts. But as a board member, I do realize about our schools, they're not moving. I understand that. Some are, some aren't, and whatever the vision that you have, and we hired you, I can always hold you accountable for the decision that coming to us, requesting this,
Sure.
and the decision that I will make tonight doing it. I will forever hold you accountable because I want our district to be great. And if you got the vision and you say you see it, I support that decision.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
But as I said tonight, my only thing that I had to process when you're making changes, people are affected.
Sure.
And that, to me, would affect me. So with that thought in mind, whatever, and I want you administrators sitting out there, naysayers, you don't know, but everything that was processed tonight, I understand because I read policy, that Dr. Paluska could not present this to us in a session. It had to be publicly, and as administrators, you could not know the changes that were going on because Mr. J. Beckett, I understand, had informed you of this. I see you got his name on here. So,
Yes, ma'am.
with that thought in mind, I want us to move on, but I also want to make sure that people within these districts, even these principals sitting out there, if they want a job, whomever in the North Rock School District, I want to make sure that you apply. I want to make sure that
Absolutely.
they're given a fair chance of an opportunity.
Everybody that qualifies.
Qualified. I'm not just talking about if they're not qualified, they don't need to be hired. But at least give them the opportunity.
Sure.
Mr. Steele, you and I on the same boat for a change, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
Dr. Steele.
and I thank you for that, Ms. Williams. I think when you look at 50 pages of detailed job descriptions, this is about the work.
Right.
And I know change is difficult. I get that, but you'll see these job descriptions are very intentional in the work that I expect, that I believe is going to make a difference.
I trust you.
Well, I support the vision. Like everybody said, change is hard. I do really want to make sure that the salaries
Sure.
range is on there
Sure.
for even internal to know, you know, what you're looking at, and especially when it gets to LPPC, so they'll know how much we're looking at paying for, you know, that position. And after all that, on page 2, the motion is there, and I'll entertain a motion.
Wait just 1 second, real quick. Let me just say this. I understand that you're dealing with people's lives, livelihoods. I get that. And I'm empathetic to all of that. However, we have so many children coming through this district. That's priority number 1. I have nieces and a nephew in this district. Fortunately, they have family that take up extra time with them and are there reading above level, because that's my expectation. I know everybody doesn't have that. So we have to always make sure that when we walk into any one of those schools, it's about every child that's sitting in that seat, period. Thank you.
Motion?
Madam President, I so move that we accept Dr. Paluski's,
It's written. It's on page 2.
Excuse me. Thank you. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot we got to go with Mr. Beckett's information here. Madam President, the superintendent recommends accepting the North Little Rock School District Central Office Reorganization Plan Phase 1 proposal as presented in open session, clarify open session, and send it to the LPPC for 10 days.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that the superintendent's recommendation presented is accepted. The North Florida School District Central Office Reorganization Plan Phase 1 proposal is presented in open session, and it is sent to the LPPC for 10 days. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Noes?
Abstain.
And on the record, because he abstained, Ms. Colquitt, I need a roll call.
Dr. Readiness,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams. You call my name?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Ms. Kirsten West,
Aye.
Ms. Temple,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Mr. Zakreski,
Abstain.
Mr. Steele.
Aye.
It has been adopted.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you,
Thank you.
members of our Board of Education.
All righty. I give him a second to get back here. We are down to 10.8, employment of personnel.
Madam President, the superintendent recommends the employment of personnel as discussed in executive closed session.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the employment of personnel that Dr. Paluski has presented to us tonight.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that we accept the employment of personnel presented Being that it is employment of personnel, there can be no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and it's been adopted. Consent agenda.
Madam President, members of our Board of Education, the superintendent recommends the following consent agenda items: 10.9A, bank reconciliation and justification; 10.9B, monthly financial reports; 10.9C, business office items; 10.9D, payment of regular bills; and 10.9E, facilities use request.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I so move we accept the consent agenda presented by Dr. Paluski on business. Give me a sheet.
10.9.
10.9 consent.
Yes, 10.9A, 10.9B, 10.9C, 10.9D, and 10.9C.
E. Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept the consent agenda. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It has been adopted. We have future meetings. The next meeting is our board workshop, which is Thursday, March 3rd. And then March 17th is our regular board meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam President, I so move that we adjourn.
Me too.
Second.
See you next time.
I want to sign up.